Will SUI flip Sol in TVL by next year?
They found their traders were 20x more profitable, lower gas fees, faster time to finality, more opportunity for arbitrage, greater certainty about your trades. SUI is the most powerful developer platform for the internet.
How many unique active wallets? Good morning, afternoon, or indeed evening, and welcome to another interview here on Coin Bureau. And today I'm being joined by Mr. Adeniyi Abiodun, who is the co-founder and CPO of Mysten Labs, which is, of course, the developer behind the SUI blockchain. So, Adeniyi, welcome to the Coin Bureau.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for having me on.
It's great having you, yeah. So we've got a lot of stuff to cover today. I've got a lot of questions. The SUI ecosystem is exploding. But I think it's important to let's just start off at the basics, especially for those people who may have heard of SUI but don't exactly know what you guys are doing, or for those people who are watching this video for the first time, and this is the first time they're hearing about SUI. So can you please tell me in your own words, basically explain to me what SUI is and what you guys are trying to do and build?
Yeah, thank you very much. So my name is Adeniyi, we're co-founders of Mysten. One of the co-founders of Mysten. Our team, the co-founders, have actually been working together for quite a while. We were the team formerly at Facebook working on Libra. As everyone knows, Libra didn't launch, but we still want to continue the vision of building a global computer for the world. Ultimately, what we wanted to do is build a global coordination layer for the internet. We believe, of course, companies like Meta, Google, Facebook, the internet is becoming more and more centralized over time. And centralization, not because companies are evil, because when you have centralized systems, it's just easier to sometimes coordinate things within your walls than relying on other systems. And there was no efficient single system to help you coordinate user assets or user intentions across the internet as a whole. So everyone builds silos as a way to combat, as a way to try and semi-solve that. It creates bigger problems. We saw a distinct opportunity to build a set of protocols and platforms that would make the internet more decentralized now and allow developers to interoperate between various services and products on the internet without centralized services or middlemen. That's going to lead to great efficiency, lower cost, and ultimately bring in a whole heap of new set of developers and use cases that was previously not possible. So SUI is not just an L1. I think I want to make that point clear. Everybody talks about just building a blockchain, which is interesting. It's great. We've solved that problem. We have the fastest, most scalable, lowest latency blockchain available today. But the goal of Mysten Labs, the goal of SUI is not to enable just a platform where you just go and trade meme coins or do DeFi as a whole. We think the market is much bigger. If we succeed, we believe there's a multi-trillion-dollar opportunity to really build the next generation platform for developers on the internet version 2.0 or 3.0 as we call it. And what does that really mean? Right now, imagine if I want to buy a concert ticket, or I want to, pay for something at a kiosk, or you want to basically do some transactions. You have a disparate number of systems that don't really work or talk to each other, and you have to build a lot of band-aid to try and make things work on the internet today. So what we believe is services or APIs are going to effectively be smart contracts. That's really what SUI is. SUI is a developer platform that lets you expose smart contracts as a form of APIs and allow people to write nothing other than JavaScript or whatever kind of code you want to write to coordinate the intentions around these assets or these products and services in a very atomic way. So if I want to write a script, or if I want to write an application that at the same time of taking money out a lending protocol, depositing it in a high yield strategy, and at the same time paying for my concert ticket and then buying and booking a flight, I could do that with a single click of a button on SUI. And that all can be done without writing a single smart contract. Now that is a new programming paradigm for the internet. So imagine if you have multiple airline tickets or multiple airlines posting their tickets on the internet, and then you had a method of actually allowing you to buy the best airline ticket for the configuration you set for the time and date and pricing that you care about. Also book the hotel that you care about at the same time, and also book the excursions that you want. You can coordinate that on SUI without writing a single smart contract. So for us, SUI is the most powerful developer platform for Internet 3.0, where every developer now has the ability to offer their products and services in a new decentralized way. And without having a middleman or middle brokers in the middle, you can now offer your services and goods to as many people as possible for as lowest cost as possible. That is a way bigger target addressable market than just the blockchain. Interestingly, SUI is doing really, really well as a blockchain. We are, second behind Solana in terms of non-EVM on growth in TVL, transaction volume, daily active users, you name it. So in a year and a half, or just less than a year and a half of the protocol being live, we've completely gone, superseded most chains that have been around for 3 to 4 years. That shows a trajectory, and I believe Move is about 7% of daily active devs as of last capital report. And we believe in the next report, it should be over 10%. So it's significant market share that SUI is taking in a very short space of time. And that speaks of our dedication of enabling a developer platform that everybody can build on without boundaries.
So big aspirations. And obviously, you're coming back to everything you're saying there in terms of this next generation of developers, this programming paradigm. Now, obviously, yes, you're not just an L1, but one of the main differences between SUI and many of the other L1s that are currently there is that you guys have this brand new smart contract language, right? Move, which obviously came out of Meta, which was developed there. So why did you guys, first of all, why did you guys in Meta, while you were still in Meta or Facebook at the time working on Libra, why did you guys decide to develop this new language? And why have you guys continued building on it?
Good question. So while we're at Meta, Sam Blackshear is the CTO of Mysten Labs, our company. He's actually the creator of Move, the Move programming language. While he was at Facebook, he led a team that did some research on a multitude of programming languages, including Solidity, JavaScript, Rust, you name it. Because ultimately, we want to build a platform that ultimately controls money or allows you to issue money in a DRM fashion. We need to be absolutely sure, or at least enable developers to write absolute safe code in a very, chaotic environment as a decentralized ledger as a whole. And we found no candidate that could solve that problem. So we ultimately had to invest a lot of time and resources and research into developing, a programming language that allows you to really treat money as securely as possible. If you look at a Move Smart Contract application and you compare that to a Solidity or even an SVM, something written for Solana, it's less verbose. There's way less code you need to write to get a lot more value. And then you don't have to do all the checks that mostly causes all the hacks and all the issues we see in Solidity and other programming languages as a result, because it's specifically designed to allow you to program assets. It is an asset-oriented programming language. And at the same time, we adopted an object-oriented principle to it. So what that means is everything in SUI is an object. Everything is an object. In Solidity, in Solana, everything is an account. It's mostly account-based systems. SUI is an object-based system. So you can replicate account-based systems in an object-based system. You can't do it the other way around. And that gives you the ultimate flexibility as a developer. So if I want to build, a game and I have an asset, it's an object. If I want to build a token or a meme coin, it's an object. And these two assets don't have to interact with each other, but they can if you want them to. That also allows us to have the most, the highest throughput chain possible as a result of that design. So the reason why we built it is one, developer friendliness, two, safety, absolute safety. It's also functionally verifiable. You can absolutely verify the code that you've written to make sure that it does exactly what you want it to say, with mathematical proofs as well, which is something you can't do with the majority of languages today. We wanted to build a language that enables you to build money or create money and actually create assets and manage assets in the safest possible way. This is why today you've not seen any massive hacks on SUI. You've not seen crazy amounts of downtime. We've took that to heart on day one, and that's really helped.
Yeah, I mean, its Move is based on Rust, if I believe, right?
So it's not. So people used to say that, but it's Rust-like. It's got like the borrow checks from Rust, but beyond that, it's a different language. Mm-hmm. But one thing is clear for Move, right, is if you write in Java, you write in C++, you write in a traditional programming language, you're going to be at home with Move very, very quickly. Typically, devs are picking up Move in about 3 to 4 days. It's very, very quick. It's not the long cycle of chewing glass that people try to promote, which isn't a good thing. Yeah. You're learning in 3 to 4 days, and you can start to build really amazing applications quite quickly.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously speaking about the devs now and dev, I'm curious to know what dev feedback has been like for those who haven't coded in Move and have moved over. What has it been like from your guys' perspective?
Yeah, I always say it's always, don't take it from us, take it from the developers directly, right? I'll give you a few examples. We had Ruta from SuiLend, who is one of the top lending protocols on Solana. They launched SoLend. I think it's been renamed to something else now. They actually took a look at Move, and they did a build on Move in relatively fast fashion. their feedback was building in Move was a 10x improvement than building on Solana from their perspective. It's just way easier to write really expressive, safe code. The ideas behind how you build on Move is very similar to what you'd expect in a traditional programming languages. The object model they found was very intuitive. And it goes from just not just router, you name it, all across the board. All developers that generally try Move or try object-based Move on SUI start to learn very quickly that it's something that's not very foreign. And
Yeah.
it becomes very apparent that, it's a very powerful developer platform. Just to be clear, right? We always say if you look at the active devs in Web3, there are only about 20 to 25,000 daily active devs in Web3. So that's small. That's less developers than Facebook or Google have as a whole.
Yeah.
So our experience has been for decades is building developer platforms that hundreds of thousands, if not millions of developers use. JavaScript alone has over 9 million devs. So, the day is so early that there's no dominant programming language today, and that's why Move is getting a lot of market share. I think it's going to be over 10% in the space of a year and a half. But we expect it to be by far the most dominant platform for developing smart contracts, and we will see other chains adopt Move, which I think is a great thing.
10% in a year or so, you think, in the blockchain devs?
Yeah,
What's
so right
it now,
now,
sorry?
the last result was about 7%, but that's like
Okay.
6 to 7 months ago.
6 months.
I think this time around we should be over 10% in my view.
So that's interesting. So in terms of obviously, so then you say that, yes, and I have spoken to many devs who've built on SUI. So shout out to Raj from AlphaFi. Of course, he's building a lending protocol there as well. And he said so. But I'm curious, obviously, yes, Trine is doing as you discover. A Move is a lot of an easier language to build on. But initially, was it a challenge for you guys to get people, developers, to want to build on SUI? And how did you bring them over?
So we started our journey feeling like, look, ultimately we can't just follow the playbook of other chains. That was not our goal. We knew if we were really obsessive about the developer experience, we'll win. That's really it, right? Like as a product person, you want to solve problems. And as engineers in our company, they want to build the best freaking platform that developers can use on a daily basis and feel really proud about what they develop. So we very much over-index on developer experience from day one. And of course, you're always going to get rebuttal. And we had VCs asking the question, what's your EVM, your EVM compatibility story, which is the dumbest question in the world. You don't need EVM to succeed in the world, right?
Yeah.
But ultimately, focusing on developer experience really, really set us to where we are today. This is why you're seeing SUI's adoption grow significantly, very, very high. Developers just love building and Move. Early on, developers who had tried other ecosystems, the ones we want first, are the ones who had already been tired of other ecosystems. They tried building on Sol, they tried building on ETH, they realized that there are frailties in those paradigms, and try and Move as a breath of fresh air. And naturalistically, over time, more devs started to learn it, and especially start to hear the referrals from other developers who had built and successfully deployed applications on SUI. And now you're seeing this natural avalanche of people coming into this ecosystem. Of course, the growth of ecosystem is a big attraction, which also helps, right? But at the same time, I think our devs are almost the developers in this ecosystem are the best ambassadors of the platform because they're the ones going out to talk to other protocols in other ecosystems to tell them why Move is so amazing.
Yeah, strong community, no doubt must have been a factor. So coming back to, so now obviously Move and them trying out some developers building on it have discovered that, it's a lot easier platform to build on or language to code in. And that's obviously driven a lot of the growth. But I mean, you can't explain, that can't be the only reason for it. I mean, you've one of the fastest growing non-EVM chains, the second largest non-EVM chain, it's 26 million active accounts recently. So I'm curious in terms of what else is driving this growth apart from, developer interest, your community growth.
Yeah, I'll give you one example. We had Bluefin who were previously deployed on Arbitrum. And without us, they literally took a look at Move themselves and tried it out and decided to run in parallel their. So Bluefin is actually a perps, a order book based perps DEX. They were running on Arbitrum and they ran in parallel on SUI for some time. And very quickly, they found their traders were 20x more profitable trading on SUI than they were on Arbitrum for the same product. Exactly the same product. They're 20x more profitable trading on SUI than they were on Arbitrum. Lower gas fees, faster time to finality, more opportunity for arbitrage, greater certainty about your trades going through. That ultimately resulted in them fully pivoting over to SUI, because they ultimately could offer a better developer experience or a better product experience for their traders. And now you add the fact that we have something called ZK login. ZK login is a mechanism that is native to the chain, where the chain itself will verify your session with a Web2 account and create an account for you on chain that you can trade with without ever using a wallet. Or in fact, then you add sponsored transactions that basically pays for gas to you in the background. You've basically allowed SUI to be this platform that lets you build Web2 experiences, but with the power of Web3. So it's those things that we've built in, and the fact that the product just works. It is by far the lowest latency chain. When we're talking about latency, we're talking about actual finality, not optimistic, not these kind of block. People talk about block production. That is nonsense. That means nothing, right? SUI has block times of 80 milliseconds, but we don't talk about that because it doesn't mean anything. What matters is from the time I click the button to when my trade is submitted to when I get a final receipt, that to know irrevocably it cannot be changed. By far, SUI is multiple times faster than every single chain in the market. That matters for trading. So you ask a question as to why is it seeing growth? It's the products are seeing product market fit. So DEXs are seeing tremendous volume. There's opportunity for arbitrage because of what we call programmable transaction blocks. It's this unique feature only available on SUI, where you can execute a number of trades that are dependent on each other with a single transaction, and you can batch up to 1,024 trades together in a single transaction. It's final instantly in under 500 milliseconds. That creates an amazing opportunity for arbitrage that's never been possible before. So we think the transaction trading volume of SUI is only going to grow over time, and more devs who want to build compelling applications on SUI are going to start to see the market fit on SUI as well. Another area we're seeing growth is gaming. Gaming has always been a bit of a meme for me, because I believe most of the games we've seen in Web3 have not been fun games. They've just been what we call spreadsheets of
Play to earn
games.
crap, sorry to say.
I don't understand why people think that's what people want to do. Something you feel bad when you lose a game, but you feel worse when you lose money and lose a game at the same time.
Yeah.
So what we believe is the gaming experience will be elevated using Web3, because owning the assets that you have makes sense, or receiving a reward for the amount of time you play makes sense, or by building a direct connection with you and a publisher, you will play that game a lot longer. So your total ownership, the amount of time you spend on that game, the shelf life of that game significantly is extended or elongated than if you didn't have that. So we believe every game that is worth its weight in gold by 2030 will have an element of Web3 in. It's not going to be the nonsense we've seen in the past. These will be really great titles. And we announced the SUI Play 0x1, which is our own games console powered by the Play operating system. That Play operating system can do boot on your Windows, can do boot on any machine, including your set-top box as well. And every one of those operating system deployments has a SUI account embedded into it. So users will be able to log in with normal email and password, and all of a sudden they've got an account that can use to earn rewards and use to play and collect the assets that they play over time. So I think people are finding our story compelling. They try the product, they build on top of it, and they realize that they can actually get market share as a result. So yeah, I think it's all going to do with developing, building better products, and ultimately winning market.
Got it. So developer experience is key here. So I do have another question that comes to user onboarding, and I asked around the office earlier to get some feedback around particular questions they had for you specifically. Now, one of the success stories in terms of like onboarding retail into Solana's ecosystem has been the easy UX and usability of this Phantom web wallet, right, or Phantom's browser wallet. And in terms of currently, at least what I've gathered is like the SUI wallet itself doesn't have too many functions yet, right, as much as compared to Solana. So I'm curious in terms of what is the roadmap or plans for additional features and functionality to be built within the current SUI native wallet, or indeed other wallets that are being developed?
Yeah, so the first thing is there will be other wallets coming to SUI ecosystem from other ecosystems. I can't go into details what these wallets will be. That's the first thing. Separately, the SUI wallet is getting, the product has only been out for about a year and a bit. So it's taken some time, but ultimately it is a trusted wallet in the ecosystem. We're always adding more features over time to it, and expect by end of the year this year, that there'll be more intrinsic features added into it. Some of the things we're looking on is simpler on and off ramp. So the ability to bank in, bank out, cash in, cash out directly from the wallet is an area of great importance to us. The ability to use debit cards and things like that to on ramp is going to be important. And so we're looking into adding those features in. But also the ability to look at more information about the trades you're making, whether it's price history, more information about the transaction history, very simple things that we can do to improve the experience. Those things are actually ongoing as we speak right now. So I definitely expect the experience on trading with SUI Wallet or using SUI Wallet is going to be greatly elevated over the next coming months as well. So that's a lot of feedback we'll be getting from the community. But I'd say, look, it's a consequence of having a product that's only been live for like a year. So we're a very small team. But no, like keep the feedback coming. Would love to keep building on this. But more importantly, we're looking forward to the addition of other wallets from other ecosystems that are going to just increase the amount of user activity on SUI as a whole.
Makes sense, yeah. Okay, so coming back to the ecosystem right now, obviously you've mentioned a few projects already, Bluefin and SUI Lend. But what are some of the other most interesting projects that are building on SUI right now that you wanted to talk about?
Yeah, I'll touch on, there's a plethora of aggregators on SUI. So aggregation is the mechanism of allowing you to find the fastest or the best trade route path for you, for a trade that you want to make. And what people are building
like
on
a 1
SUI
inch
now, it's like 1 inch, but on steroids, right?
Okay.
Because 1 inch cannot route infinite amount of routes for you, especially efficiently and a low cost mechanism as well. So we have aggregators such as Hop, Aftermath, Cetus as well as launch an aggregator. And what these aggregators ultimately do is they look at all pools and positions across the entire chain and can find the shortest route to you to get the best execution for your trade. So, and that's done with a single click of a button, which is not possible in any other chain at this moment in time. So if I want to swap between SUI to buy Sol, or if I want to swap between Sol to buy ETH, or if I want to swap between any number of currencies, it would use any number of routes required, including trading coins I have no interest in, to make sure I get the best execution. That feature has been amazing, and the amount of trading volume we're seeing, including the opportunity for arbitrage, is skyrocketing on SUI as a whole. And this is one of the things I think programmable transaction blocks makes uniquely possible on SUI as a whole. So Hop, Aftermath, Cetus, 7K have built amazing aggregators that are driving a lot of DeFi growth on the platform as well. There's one protocol I'm very excited about, which is DeepBook. So DeepBook is effectively SUI's central limit order book. It is a decentralized club that sits on SUI that every major DeFi protocol is already plugged into. So it is a backbone of liquidity for DeFi products on SUI. As you know, if I want to trade highly liquid assets, doing that with an AMM could be cost inefficient, and slippage becomes a problem. So for long-tail assets, great to use AMMs and other mechanisms. But for highly liquid tier one assets, you're going to want to trade using a central limit order book. So SUI has a fully functional, highly low latency, high throughput central limit order book that is growing significantly, and that's called DeepBook. The TG was a few weeks ago, I believe. And that's growing significantly. Separately from that, we're seeing a lot of interest from projects that want to start to launch directly on DeepBook rather than going to a centralized exchange. And I think that's only going to change over time as well. Separately, we also have projects who are building their settlement directly on DeepBook. So multi-chain products who are you can effectively start a trade on Sol, but it will finalize on DeepBook because it will always have better execution, lower fees as a whole. So we think DeepBook will become this global trading engine for the world, powered by SUI over time. So very excited about that. And there are a number of pools and protocols like Lotus who are going to allow you to LP directly into a central order book and allow you to earn rewards as a result of providing liquidity to clubs, which is typically something done by market makers. But I think market makers are highly going to be decentralized in the world that we're going to as well. So beyond that, I'm very excited about the SUI Play 0x1, which I mentioned. It is a gaming device. It's on pre-order right now. The growth of that has been phenomenal and well adopted by well accepted by the SUI community. In fact, I'd say 20% of the purchase of that device is from ETH community, and another 25% is from Sol community. So it's amazing. Like SUI's getting mindshare from ETH and Sol at the same time.
And so what's really interesting about SUI X0X players, because also I think that part of the main reason why people were aping into the Saga phones and the Seeker is because of this concept that they potentially could get airdrops. Whereas I know that you guys, at least, I don't know if I know that SUI didn't do airdrops. I don't know if there's any. I don't think there's anybody implied with this gaming device. So the fact that people were just buying the gaming device because it's cool to be part of the SUI ecosystem, and it is cool to be like an actual hardware embedded within Web3. It's really interesting. I'm curious then to know.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
Yeah, for us, the most important thing is like we don't want to give you or offer a device where the reason why you get it is because of just some incentive. Because ultimately, like in my view, like I'm never going to replace my iPhone, right?
Yeah.
Maybe I'll swap for an Android one day, right? But I'm not going to buy a cheap $200 phone to swap for something I feel is high-end. Is highly, it's a product that I change every year, so it's a highly consumer product in my view. But gaming is an area we're very passionate about because I have a Steam Deck, I have a Nintendo Switch, I have a PlayStation. The idea of owning multiple devices in the gaming world is actually natural. It's fine. What the SUI Play lets you do, though, is it lets you play your Steam games, your Epic games, and other PC games directly on a device, but take it with you while you're traveling. So now it acts as a real utility. I could play my existing titles on this SUI Play device, and now also my Web3 games are unleashed. Whoever wants to do in-game, in-app purchases without paying the exorbitant fees of app stores can do that directly via the device. So we think it's going to be a liberating feature, which is a whole point of Web3 as a whole, right?
Yeah.
It's an operating system that liberates you from having to make a choice on, do I want to play Steam, do I want to play Epic? Take whatever you want and play it as you go. And you can do your trading, you can buy your meme coins on it, you can do whatever you want on it. It has a wallet inbuilt. But for the mass majority of the world, 99.9% of the world, who just want to play fun games and then start to be introduced into Web3 in a very easy way, we think this device nails it. And the fact that this operating system will be run on your Windows machine on the side as well and can be put into your set-top box or any other device, it's going to be amazing. I think that's what mass adoption means for us as a whole.
Yeah, if you can develop a device that gamers themselves would relish, and ancillary to the crypto components, then you've hit the holy grail there. How many pre-orders have you guys got on those things?
So we're about 3,300 pre-orders so far.
Okay, 3,300. Are you going to open it up again? Because I want to place my order.
We can place an order now, absolutely.
Yeah.
There's going to be a window when we close the orders once
Okay.
it reaches the maximum.
Okay.
There's a lot happening at the moment where we have significant amount of institutions that want to take the device and offer it to a wide range of people. We are focusing right now on just the early adopters. We want to get it to early adopters first, but we believe next year there's going to be a mass market for these things. And we think other people will build SUI Play devices, which is great. Think about the SUI Play as the Pixel for Android, and everyone can build on top of the SUI Play device. They can build their own operating system, their own devices for it. Wherever that operating system is, there's a SUI account, which we think will be the most dominant wallet for the Web 2 normies, I'd say. So.
Cool, man. When is the timeline for that? Sorry, in terms of, is next year? You said
early next year. Yeah. So the device is already built. It's already done. Operating systems is now being tested. So we believe this device is going to ship on time.
That's been challenging though, too, because in terms of hardware, it is a difficult, it's a different kind of beast, right? So it must have been a challenge, but I'm glad you guys managed to bring it to market, and we'll bring it to market. Just switching gears a little bit now. Obviously, you guys, I know you just say you're not just an L1, you're much more than that. But in terms of comparisons to other L1s, obviously, you guys aren't the only big move-based layer one, right? And you obviously aren't the only layer or blockchain that has come out of the Facebook stable or the Meta stable, right? So, and I'm sure this is one of the biggest. I'm sure you'll get the comparisons regularly, right? In terms of other blockchains, more particularly Aptos. Now, most people would just assume that SUI Aptos move Facebook, same thing, but they're a lot different on the technical side of it as well in terms of architecture, consensus, things like that. Can you just explain to our viewers then what are some of the biggest and most important differences, both on the technical side, but also the partnerships approach and the team between you guys and Aptos?
Yeah, the most significant thing beyond the tech, I'll go to the tech in a moment, between SUI and Aptos or other projects out of Meta is ultimately the team. Our team was responsible for the majority of the contributions to Libra, the Move programming language developed by Sam, consensus protocol, and all the world's work around cryptography was George and Costas, which is Costas, our lead cryptographer. He actually ran cryptography for WhatsApp. All the stuff you do on WhatsApp as well is all the work was done by him. All the cryptography behind Instagram and Facebook app was by Costas Choclias. And George, we acquired his company at Meta to actually build the consensus mechanisms for Libra as a whole. And then you have Evan that ran the R&D department of Meta for Libra. So it's ultimately, and I ran the product team for R&D. So it was the brains behind all the innovations that left to form Mysten Labs. Know her or on other teams. I think they're all doing different things. But the reason why when we left Facebook, we did not use our own code base, which we built at Meta, is because we took a lot of learnings from that code base and wanted to do something new. We're not bound by Facebook's time, bound by Facebook's priorities. We could choose our own priorities, choose the things we wanted to work on. And we chose a risky path of building something from bottom up, which is why we succeeded with SUI. SUI, so the difference between SUI and Aptos, SUI is a multi-machine system. So SUI is not confined to a single machine. You can scale SUI horizontally. The more machines you throw at SUI, the faster SUI becomes. Aptos doesn't have that. Solana doesn't have that. Any other blockchain doesn't have that. In fact, the more machines you throw in, the slower the mechanism becomes. So SUI has a mechanism to allow you to parallelize transactions by adding more workers to each validator. Separately from that, compared to the development experience, I would liken writing code on Sol to very different, similar to writing Sol on Aptos as well, right? It's an account-driven model, which is something we pivoted highly away from to move to an object-based model, which also gives us our performance as well. So developing on SUI using the object model is very natural for 99.9 developers in the world who are used to object-oriented systems versus Web3, which is mostly an account-based system to a large extent. So we're built for large mass adoption. I don't believe that they're there yet. Separately from that as well, if you think about the growth of our ecosystem, if you look at every possible metric, developer adoption, TVL, trading volume, growth of wallets, you name it, we've been out in the market a lot shorter than most of these other chains, including Aptos, but our metrics supersede them in every single possible way. And that's just a result of our team and also the technology that we've built as a whole. So we've been able to build a very successful community that was not based on airdrop or hype, but based on really honing in a core set of ecosystem partners who cared about the ecosystem that wanted to build in the long term. So we didn't do an airdrop for SUI. We didn't believe in that mechanism for bootstrapping the ecosystem, and that's ultimately worked out for us, right? Not that we're against airdrops, but we think just starting your ecosystem with an airdrop basically gets you the lowest common denominator of users who end up leaving anyway. So they'll be pissed off with you, but they'll go elsewhere, right? So yeah. I think we have the strongest Web3 community for non-EVM right now behind Solana, and our goal is to keep growing. But as I always say, our goal is not just Web3. Our goal is to win over the mass majority of the internet. So we're the only one building a decentralized stack for a replacement for coordinating internet interactions. Everyone else is just building chains. We can do chains better than everyone else, but I think the extra step in building a platform for all developers is an area where I think we could really, really excel more than everyone else in the market. But honestly, we love the fact that there are multiple move chains, and we hope more come onto the market because we believe fundamentally, if you look at Aptos also, they've not had significant hacks as well because they're built on the Move VM. And the more chains adopt the Move philosophy, the safer the ecosystem is. Smart contract safety, as Sam says, is probably the biggest barrier of adoption to Web3 as a whole. So the more chains adopt Move, the safer the whole ecosystem is going to be.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be winner takes all, and there's still so much room to grow in terms of both crypto in general, but also in the Move space more specifically. But we're coming back to the partnership side of it, because I know that one thing that Aptos has been doing is like partnerships with enterprises, like for instance, recently some gaming companies in Japan, and then also more specifically Franklin Templeton, right? So on the TradFi side. You guys have obviously been focused on ecosystem growth through developer communities. So I'm curious if you've got any sort of other big partnerships with enterprises that you've announced or that you're going to be rolling out, where they could be utilizing SUI in some way.
So we do have a few. We've announced quite a lot of partnerships. We're partners with most of the people you just mentioned, by the way.
Okay.
what we don't do is a lot of PR and press releases, because that's kind of the Web3 way to try and play on price. We don't believe in that. But what we care about is like having really meaningful moment on with a partnership that shows what SUI does uniquely to other chains. And to that extent, like, when we announce something, here is what you can do on SUI versus what you can do on any other chain with this partner, rather than here's a partnership announcement. Because I've been in crypto since late 2011, where every single week there's a partnership announcement, and it gets jarring very, very quickly. But what
The
matters is
announcement
really
of
telling.
the announcement of the forthcoming partnership announcement. In a week, I'll be announcing the announcement of the partnership.
It's the most jarring thing. I mean, put it this way, I'm happy we're over that, but it's still happening to some tune. But no, look, we believe enterprise is going to be one of the biggest adoption ticks. But
Yeah.
actually, in my view, you want to win over, you want to win developers that can build. Experiences are differentiated, because that's what matters. Because you can say what you want, but enterprises are slow. They'll take a long time to actually build anything meaningful in the right amount of time. There are a lot of amazing developers in Web 2 and Web 3 that have amazing ideas that they want to execute, that Web 2 platforms or Web3 platforms does not afford them to do so. Those are the people we're working with, and we think they'll build the most compelling applications on SUI. So you will see announcements from time to time from Mysten, but when it comes out from us, it's going to be more about something unique that you can do on SUI that really showcases and pushes Web3 forward. One of the things we're very excited about is we're launching a tool called Bugdar soon. And this Bugdar is going to be available for everybody in the ecosystem, by the way. Whether you're a developer on SUI, developer on ETH, developer on Aptos, developer on Solana, this AI tool is going to basically help you find bugs in your code, so you do not release more code that's going to basically result in hacks and honeypots and stuff like that as well. So the overall health of Web3 ecosystem is something we actually care about. Although we're very competitive, but another another $100 million hack, whatever, it's only going to take everybody back as a whole.
Just going back to the tech upgrades then. So you recently released Mr. SETI, which is a consensus mechanism that builds on Narwhal Tusk. So why is it so important and relevant for SUI, and how does it differ from other consensus mechanisms on other L1s, like Solana, for example?
Sure thing. So as people know, when we went to the mainnet, we launched with Narwhal and Bullshark, which is our consensus mechanism. That at the time was the lowest latency consensus mechanism in the market. It's also the most scalable. We felt we could do better. So the team took it upon themselves to build a DAG-based consensus mechanism, easier to understand, way more with properties that affords you lower latency that exists today. Because ultimately, our goal was, can we get to a point where a transaction you do occurs faster than the internet website that you're working on loads? That was the goal. Like, can we get a transaction for a user to occur faster than a refresh on a website? And we're able to achieve that with Mr. SETI, which is the fastest consensus mechanism that's been afforded to people. And that it's one thing to get low latency, but to get low latency at high throughput is very, very difficult. So even at 100,000 transactions per second, transactions with Mr. SETI will be final in less than a second. Other chains you see just going from 1,000 to 2,000 TPS, latency goes up by 100 to 200%. So SUI doesn't have that. Whether you're trading one transaction per second, you're doing 10,000, 20,000 TPS, SUI would always finalize your trades in less than a second, which is the goal, which is now why mass adoption is really possible for us. So the reason why we felt like going for low latency matters as well is it also increases the surface area of use cases you can build on SUI. Now, if it took me 2 seconds to finalize a transaction before, and now it takes me 400 milliseconds to finalize a transaction, it means now gaming on chain might be now be realistic. Every move you make is recorded on chain instantly, or every trade you make is now instantly recorded, which means now opportunities for arbitrage is greatly increased as a whole. So we believe low latency is going to be the underpinnings for enabling more apps to be developed on the platform as well. One thing, again, that I really want to make clear that it's very unique on SUI is gas price is actually quite constant relative to the dollar. So with our upgrades coming, you'll be able to basically, validators every day will quote what they think the gas price should be. And they normally will quote that with reference to their online cost of running infrastructure and a bit of a spread to make sure they make a profit. And that is a bit of a game theory where if you charge too high, you don't get the rewards. for being a validator. If you charge too low, then you're shortchanging yourself because you're basically running at a loss. So you're basically seeing gas price for SUI to be quite flat over time. And if the network is processing 1 million transactions per second, because if we need more throughput, you just throw more machines on each validator, versus processing, 100 transactions per second, the gas price will be effectively the same. So it's very unique to SUI. It's not like other chains where the network gets busy and the prices go through the roof. It can deal with high volume at the same price, irrespective of what's going on with the chain as a whole.
Yeah, I can imagine that conformity in fees is quite, especially if certainty around what you can use when you can use it. You're not going to be charged for fees, and particularly a high.
I mean, think about it, like as an enterprise company, right? You tell an enterprise, hey, come onto SUI. It's going to cost you, 400th of a penny to do a trade. But if you're successful and you actually do really, really well, we're going to have to charge you $2 per transaction. They're like, why would you ding me for being successful as a company? That makes no sense. So you cannot build a business on a chain whereby you are dinged for your success. So SUI, whether you're doing a transaction or you're doing 1,000 transactions, you can be certain of what your fees are going to be. It would always be flat. So these are the kind of things that matter when you want to go to scale.
So coming back to another big upgrade that you got, something that you guys are working on the tech side of it, it's obviously Walrus. Firstly, my first question is, what's the relevancy of that name? Secondly, can you explain what it is and why it's important?
So first of all, Walrus is a decentralized storage platform. We say platform because it's not just dumb storage. It's programmable storage that's going to enable a lot of things that you can't do, that the internet couldn't previously do. To jump on a name, we always pick marine mammals as names for our products. Narwhal, bull shark, tusk, SUI, water. It's always going to be water related.
Because I believe SUI is Japanese for water, right? So is that whole theme of aquatic. Okay.
It's always an aquatic theme that we pick as a team. I know we can't get out of it.
Bluefin. Okay, well, that's cool. There you go.
Exactly, right? So it's kind of theme that everybody's starting to pick on, right? For us as a whole, but it works. But what Walrus does is one of the things we believe is SUI, as I said, is going to be a unilateral layer for the world to coordinate the world's user intent, whether it's trading, whether it's data, whatever you name it. And we saw a distinct opportunity to solve the storage problem. Storage on SUI is 100x cheaper than Sol. It's about 2000x, 100 times cheaper than Sol. It's 2000 times cheaper than Ethereum, but it's still expensive, right? Although it's cheaper, you can actually store the NFTs on SUI. You don't need to store on IPFS. But relatively speaking, if I want to store a gigabyte data, it's still expensive compared to cloud to store on SUI than you would on cloud. So we did not feel that the existing solutions in the market dealt with that in a fully decentralized way, in a way that also made it programmable. So we invented a new mechanism called Redshift that effectively lets us only replicate the data 5 times across any number of machines. So if you have 1,000 storage nodes, 1 million storage nodes, we only need to have a replicated part of that data 5 times across any number of those nodes, and then you still have full redundancy. So even if between 1/3 to 2/3 of the network goes down or the nodes are non-operational, you can still have access to either read or write to the network. No other mechanism, no other protocols have that capability. So one, because you only replicate the data 4 to 5 times, you already know what your cost is going to be, right? It'll be the base cost of your hardware times 5, right? You already know what the cost of running this is going to be. Separately, you already know the security guarantees you get. And the fact that now it's programmable, it's fully programmable storage. I can basically store petabytes on chain in a fully decentralized way with the lowest possible cost to do that. So if I wanted to, store files for, let's say, Internet Archive, which recently is getting hammered by hackers and attacked nonstop, they should use Walrus. Take that entire Internet Archive, store it on Walrus, write a smart contract that allows people to donate to it to pay for that storage in perpetuity over time. You could do that fully decentralized without needing to contact any kind of service provider to make that available. So we believe data DAOs are going to be a big, huge thing on Walrus. We've already partnered with Decrypt, who are going to run their entire website off Walrus, because now not only can you store data, you can run entire website front ends on a fully decentralized platform. And Decrypt, the publication, is going to run their entire Decrypt website off Walrus, which means you have certainty on when data was published, who published it, how much data is being stored, if it was ever modified or changed. You can even make it immutable. So now if you want to run AI models over data, you have full data provenance that you couldn't have with the internet as it exists today. So we believe it's going to be the underpinnings of how media is done in the future. It's going to be the underpinnings of how information is distributed in the future without censorship or with high resistance to censorship, which is where the internet really needs to go. So if you want to build the next social media platform in the world, you can build it on Walrus. But if you also want to secure the world's data, whether it's the Library of Congress data, whether it's anything else that you want to secure, you can store that fully decentralized and permissionless on Walrus. So we think it sets itself apart, and we have SUI as a computation layer for consensus and for everything else, and then you have Walrus as a storage layer. The next thing we're going to take care of is a networking layer for the internet. So our goal as a company is to build these platforms and protocols that lets devs build a more decentralized stack. And we believe every application in Web3 that is building should not be having their front end on AWS or Google, right? Like you say a decentralized protocol, but then you store on, you're using Cloudflare and all these things that ultimately are centralized entities that can decide to censor you as a result. So we believe it's the next best, it's the next iteration of how you go fully decentralized from top to bottom.
And the DNS system itself, right? Like you guys have got a SUI name service as well, I believe. So, well, that will combine with that, yeah.
I was going to say that exactly. So the benefit now is because there's a DNS system inherently built on SUI, every Walrus website that you create or every application you create on Walrus can have a domain name associated with it. The added benefit beyond just having a domain name associated with it is all these attacks that you used to get is no longer possible. Where you have DNS attacks, where people try to basically redirect you to a website you don't think that you wouldn't be able to tell as a user is correct. These is fully verifiable that you're dealing with a website that matters and your assets cannot be stolen anymore. So we think it's going to increase the amount of security you have. Whether you're building on Is, Solana, Aptos, whatever, you can build on Walrus. It's actually cross-chain in that regard.
And what's the timeline on that?
So we believe Walrus is going to be live sometime early next year. So it's already in testnet, and it's seeing a significant multiple ecosystems, including the EVM community.
Okay, cool. So I just have another question, more philosophical, I suppose. Obviously, you guys are trying to build this global coordination layer and decentralized, internet, financial system, more broadly. How do you envision governments and centralized institutions like the likes of Facebook adapting or responding to this decentralized infrastructure that you guys are building?
So on the first side, I believe that blockchains will end up becoming by far the cheapest mechanism to do commerce. So because all the users are on it, their assets are on it, and the ability to coordinate what users want to do across it is basically there already. Your net cost of building and leveraging that stack to do commerce is going to be significantly lower. So I believe it's going to be by far, it's going to be a business decision that they have to take because the existing stack do not give them the reach, connectivity, cost, and interoperability that they demand. So I think just by proxy of the growth of the technology and what it offers, it's going to be by far the most powerful commerce mechanism that any centralized company can use. So I think it's only a matter of time that's going to happen. Unfortunately, what they started off with were NFTs, which weren't the right way to go. But I think over time, they'll start to realize they could use it for concert tickets, they could use it for cinema tickets, they could use it for point system, they could use it for making payments, they could use it for receiving payments in USDC. We recently partnered with MoviePass, who is one of the top premier movie subscription systems in the US. They have over 1 million users. They're going to be leveraging SUI and USDC as a mechanism to pay the users and also give rewards for movies that you watch, and also use as a mechanism for funding the next generation movies as well. So we believe that's going to be the most powerful way to do commerce. So Facebook, Google, the likes will have to use blockchains in the future. Now, when you want to jump on the side of data, now I believe as a Web3 maxi, in my sense, I believe if you're going to build a Web3, you should be building everything on a decentralized stack. Now, there'll be enterprise companies who do not need that, right? You're going to trust Google. You're going to want to store your data in a fully centralized, managed way. I don't think we're going to take market share from those use cases. But there are going to be a plethora of use cases where governance matters, where jurisdiction of where that data sits is very, very, and the fact that you want to have that data always accessible without any kind of intervention absolutely matters. Those kind of use cases will really tailor themselves very, very well to Walrus and to what we're building on SUI as a whole. So, yeah.
Come on. So we're getting towards the end of this. I want to just fire our way some rapid fire questions and involvement predictions. Now, don't worry, it's not price predictions. I'm not like the typical YouTube kind of thing. What's SUI going to be at? And I know that's usually fraught legally. Not financial advice. But some other questions, more specifically around ecosystem growth. So within the next year, how many unique active wallets do you think SUI would have? So in 1 year's time from now, the 8th of November, 2025, how many unique active wallets do you think SUI will have?
So today, I think SUI is in between 27 and 28 million active wallets. I won't be surprised if we're over 120 million by this time next year. I expect it to be more than that. I keep making the statement, I believe that by 2030, the mass majority of people that play games will be on SUI already. 3.3 billion gamers last year spent about $200 billion in gaming. And I think we'll capture the lion's share of that. I think SUI by far will have more Web 2 users by proxy of ZK login mechanism we built on chain than any other platform by a long stretch. And we know enough that's what's happening in the background that we'll get there. So I'm not too concerned about that. But yeah, I think to imagine us having the mass majority of gamers on SUI is not unrealistic by the year 2030, and that's something we're driving on. And all these games need to do swaps. They need to deal with dexes. They need to do token swaps. They need to offer some kind of commerce mechanism. They need to offer some kind of point reward system. So leveraging SUI is a no-brainer. It's already happening.
Okay, so another question then. Next year, I know you think you've mentioned it, but I don't know if it was specifically November 2025. How many total devs will be building with Move? How many devs will be building with Move?
Right now, so last report by Electric Capital was about 7% monthly active devs. But then I believe the next report is going to show, which issue coming out either, I think, end of this year, should show more than 10% should be Move developers. We want to be in a position where actually we have over, right now there are 25,000 active devs in the space. We want SUI Move to have 25,000 active devs, right? Like, forget about like Web3, the number. That number is too small. Like, keep trying to take market share away from existing chains. That's not really helpful. We want 25,000 active devs in Move as a whole, and that's going to be a tall order, but that's going to be something we're going to be driving our team towards as a whole.
Capture the Web2 developers, yeah. So two more. TVL across all Move-based blockchains in 1 year. Where do you think we'll be at?
So all Move blockchains, right now, all Move blockchains are probably about close to 2 billion. I think we'll see a good 10x between now and next year.
10x
of that.
10x in TVL. Yeah. One more question on the TVL front. Final question. Will SUI flip Sol in TVL by next year?
I think, look,
1 year,
Sol's done a really good job. I'm a big fan of the Sol team, by the way, just so you know. We're about 1.1 billion TVL. If you look at the growth trajectory of SUI and contrast it to Sol, SUI is way, way, way ahead in terms of growth, in terms of its cycle, right? So, it's unfair to compare SUI to Sol in a very short space of time. But I believe, look, if we do what we're doing and deliver, which we've always have, I believe we'll be the number one chain. I don't see a world where it doesn't happen if we don't play our cards right. But our focus is really the way we do that is by having compelling applications built by devs who know how to solve real user problems coming to SUI. So it's not going to be because we are juicing numbers, whatever. We have to go out there and win developer mindshare to make sure that devs can find themselves building something really successful, making money on SUI, and then offering products and services to a broader sense of users. That's how we win in the long run.
Yeah, that's just the focus, right? Yeah, it's not about a competition, just about doing what you can to onboard the users. Yeah. Cool. So just coming up to the final parts of this interview, I guess, what are some of the most important updates and milestones that are coming up that you think we've already talked about a few of them, but you think that our viewers need to know that we haven't mentioned yet?
So yeah, as you mentioned, we released Mr. SETI, which is a consensus protocol upgrade. We are releasing, that was going to be released in 2 phases. Phase 1 was completed middle part of this year. Phase 2 is going to be launching early part of next year. And that's going to see even more significant performance improvements for SUI, which it's already fast enough as it is. We think, how do you get faster? But the team's figured that out. So the phase 2 is going to actually merge what we call the fast path with Mr. SETI as a whole. And you're going to see even lower latency for trades across the board. But more importantly, even single submissions. We benchmark SUI to be about 297,000 transactions per second. in the configuration we have in mainnet now, and we think that number is going to go up. That's without adding more machines. We think that number is going to go up, whether a single submission will go from 10,000 to a much higher number, but even batch submissions will go even faster as well. So all in all, we're trying to optimize the existing core, get it way faster, and then we allow that to scale out with additional machines. I expect to see one of the most powerful consumer applications on SUI sometime next year, and I don't want to go into detail, but yeah, very, very excited about that.
Sounds exciting. Cool, man. Yeah, so Adeniyi, this has been a fascinating chat, man, and I'm really excited for what's going on in the SUI ecosystem. Obviously, I hold SUI. I'm bullish on the ecosystem, but not just from the perspective of obviously the price has been doing very well, but it's not just about the token. It's about exactly the fact that you guys are creating this paradigm shift in the program and in programming on Web3. And, it sounds like you have a lot of potential to actually be blockchain, which onboards a lot of these Web2 devs. So just finally rounding off, where can anyone follow updates, what's going on within SUI's, or your Twitter, or are there any other places? We will obviously link to it below. Where else should they be following you guys?
So definitely follow SUI Network. I always tweet and release blog posts every 2 weeks. My Twitter handle is EMANABIO. Follow me on Twitter. And I have I have a blog that I write on a regular basis, giving my ideas on what we're thinking around the space, what we're thinking about crypto, what we're thinking about the future of the internet as a whole. So happy to share my thoughts there. But follow the SUI Network handle. It's giving lots of information on how this ecosystem is constantly growing. And go to sui.io. Lots of amazing information there, especially if you want to build, you want to get a grant, you want to figure out what things that we're caring about from an ecosystem perspective. That's a great resource for you.
Okay, cool, guys. We'll link to that below. So yeah, again, thanks again for coming on, Adeniyi. It's been really fascinating chat, and I'd look forward to going to place my order for the SUI play, and look forward to having you again on when there's more updates to share. And yeah, it's very exciting. It's very exciting what you guys are building.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure.
Cheers. Good day.